I am so deeply honored to have as speakers this morning Gary Zukav and Linda Francis. And it feels like there's a milestone occurring today as I speak. In meditation this morning, I reflected on the meeting today and this time as sort of a culmination and a celebration of the deepest purpose of the Inside Edge. For 36 years now, the Edge has stood steady as a beacon, attracting forward-thinking humans into a community of deep communication. And it's been a place where when entering, one moves, in the words of Connie Zwi, from role to soul. It has been a place where the most current life-enhancing information has been showcased, innumerable partnerships have been born here, enterprises begun, and authentic friendships forged. Chicken Soup for the Soul was born here at the Inside Edge. Many of the thought leaders of nearly 4 decades found an expansive and deeply thoughtful audience here. They felt received and encouraged and empowered. It has been a place of deep spiritual partnership where the soul speaks. That feels especially true today. Gary Zukav and Linda Francis so value and so devotedly model spiritual partnership. We're honored to have Gary and Linda lead us on an unprecedented transformation in human consciousness that is moving us in a startling new direction. Universal Human is about a new era of human evolution based on love instead of fear. Like Gary's groundbreaking book in the 1980s, Seed of the Soul, this new book will stir our thoughts, heart, and soul. For years, Gary Zukav has conveyed the most complex insights in language all can understand. Over and over, he challenges us to see the depth of our potential in the world and to act on that awareness. His gentle presence, humor, and wisdom have inspired millions to realize their soul's greatest potential. A master teacher and author of 4 consecutive New York Times bestsellers, Gary is dedicated to the unprecedented transformation of human consciousness, an entirely new threshold in the human experience. In 1979, the dancing Wu Li masters, an overview of new physics, plumbed the depths of quantum physics and relativity, winning the American Book Award for Science. In 1989, the celebrated Seed of the Soul led the way to seeing the alignment of the personality with the soul as the fulfillment of life, and captured the imagination of millions, becoming the #1 New York Times bestseller 31 weeks and remaining on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 years. Too many bestsellers to mention by name followed. Gary is the co-founder of the Seed of the Soul Institute with Linda Francis, a Harvard graduate with a degree in international relations. Linda has been practicing the creation of authentic power since she read Seed of the Soul in 1989. And in 1993, she met Gary Zukav and they created a spiritual partnership that thrives today. During this time, she co-authored 2 New York Times bestsellers, The Heart of the Soul, Emotional Awareness, and The Mind of the Soul, Responsible Choice. They also co-authored several more books. And for more information on Linda's work, go to seedofthesoul.com. I bow to you, I welcome you. I am thrilled that you are with us today. So please welcome Gary Zukav and Linda Francis.
Thank you, Diana, so much. I feel really honored to be here with all of you and so grateful to be here with Gary and all of us together. It's beautiful.
I feel the same, Diana. I'm feeling especially grateful this morning as I experienced the reality of the Inside Edge for the 36 years that it's been supporting the growth of our consciousness, the growth of our hearts, the growth of our connectivity. And I'm grateful to be at the Inside Edge again with you, beloved.
Indeed, indeed.
This time we don't have to wake up and get to Southern California at 6:30 in the morning. But we are thrilled to be here nonetheless. For me, I'm feeling that perhaps the best way that we can start together is with a meditation. So with your permission, would you sit up straight in your chairs, put your feet on the ground, uncross your legs and your arms, and close your eyes, and take a deep breath. Take another and let your body relax, completely relax with each breath. And as it does, enjoy the clarity and the alacrity of your mind. Imagine that you are living in the most wonderful, engaging, fulfilling, joyful energy that humanity has ever experienced. Imagine that a change so big it could not be imagined before is happening now. And it's affecting hundreds of millions of people. And you are one of them. Imagine that within just a few human generations, everyone will experience this new consciousness. As we enjoy our time together, allow yourself to absorb those aspects of our sharings that are relevant to you or that you feel a resonance with. And then after our talk and after this gathering has come to conclusion, to bring your resonance and whatever insights that resonance has brought to you or will bring to you in the future into your life in an experimental way, and really apply it to see what it will create. Imagine that your role in this new consciousness is bigger than you thought, bigger even than you could have imagined. That what you do and what you say is not lost, is never lost, is deeply meaningful. And therefore, it is appropriate to pay renewed attention to your intention before every deed and every word. Imagine that every experience you encounter serves your spiritual development. The new consciousness obliterates artifacts of the old consciousness, such as random and chance and luck, and replaces them with a new and startling appreciation of cause and effect, replaces limitation with a new opportunity. Take another deep breath. And as you let it out, let all of your experiences come deeply into you so that you can integrate them easily, meaningfully, joyfully, as we continue our time together and far beyond. Take another deep breath. And gently open your eyes. There. Are we all back? That was a question straight out of the old consciousness. You've never left. There isn't any other place to go. So you might as well begin enjoying your life right now. And continue without cessation. And if you do cease to enjoy your life, then we have some thoughts that may be helpful to you.
I know it's always new and fresh every time. And that just really felt, I love doing meditations and I really appreciated this very much. And I was struck by something, maybe to begin, I was struck by something that Diana said. She said, moving from role to soul. And it's such a profound thing, actually, to say that. And I was thinking about actually what Gary was talking about, multisensory. He was talking a little bit about multisensory perception, how we're looking at things differently. And I think I have some things I'd like to share as you speak about that a little bit more, beloved, because I really was struck by some things, but I think there might be a better place to say them. So go ahead and begin what you were thinking about saying.
Well, the first time we came to the Inside Edge, it was to share good news. And the good news is what the meditation was just about. That we have entered a new human consciousness. Hundreds of millions of us. And within the next few generations, all of us will be in this new consciousness. What does a new consciousness look like? It is, well, let me give you some examples. We're using the term multisensory perception because the five senses together form a single sensory system whose object of detection is physical reality. Now, we are acquiring, as a gift from the universe, another sensory system. We continue to have our five senses, and now we have an additional sensory system. Therefore, we are multisensory. And Linda and I will be discussing the new consciousness, multisensory perception. What does a multisensory experience look like? Have you ever had the thought that you're more than a body and a mind? That's a multisensory perception. Have you ever had the thought that the world is possibly not random, but it's meaningful and it's informative, not about itself, but about you? You can learn things from it. If so, that's a multisensory perception. Have you ever looked at the sky at night or at the Milky Way in wonder? And you've had the thought that the universe is wise and compassionate. That is a multisensory perception. That, in fact, is the oldest multisensory perception, wonder. And there are many, many more multisensory perceptions. In fact, the new consciousness is changing the way we experience and we perceive everything. Pardon me, from ourselves, the world, the universe, but also relationship, community, culture, nation, religion, ethnic group, everything.
No, I think I'd like to share something because when last night I woke up and I was thinking about, what we were going to speak about. And I was remembering the very first time that I had a multisensory perception that I wasn't quite sure about it, but I remember I picked up Gary's book, The Dancing Woolly Masters, in 1979 about quantum physics. And I wasn't really interested in science particularly, but I knew I needed to pick this book up. And when I started reading it, I realized that the physicists that Gary was speaking about in the book, quantum physicists, were interested in something that I didn't even know I was interested in, but they were talking about how we're all connected with each other. And I knew that was true. And it was such an exciting thing for me to read it in a book. And I thought, this is amazing. And I thought about it for a while, and then I didn't know what to do with it. Didn't know what to do exactly with that, because I don't really have anyone to talk to at that time. It was 79. I was in my early 30s. And then 10 years later, I saw Gary's name on this book. I don't know if you can see this, but I saw his name on The Seed of the Soul, the original Seed of the Soul. As you can see, I have a lot of bookmarks in it. But I picked it up because I saw his name on the book, and I thought, I have really got to read this, because whatever he's written, I want to read this author. And when I picked it up, I started reading it, and I just couldn't stop. But I got to one page, and I just laughed out loud, because Gary was talking about, I'll read just a little bit. It's page 80. Oh, it's in the old book. I don't know about the 25th anniversary, but it says 5 sensory personalities. The 5 sensory personality accepts every impulse and insight to be his or her own, as originating from within him or her, with him or her psyche. Well, I thought that I was intuitive. I thought that I knew things, and that I was kind of special. And then I read that from a multisensory point of view, insights, also hunches, inspirations are all messages from the soul, from advanced intelligence that assists the soul in its evolutionary potential. And I started laughing, because I realized it made me laugh so much, because I realized that what I thought was so special about me was actually something that was special for everyone if they were open. And that I could, actually see things in a different way. I started looking at things in a different way. And I started looking at all the things that had happened in my life. And I realized I had been supported all along, but I was seeing it from a 5 sensory lens. I wasn't seeing it from a multisensory lens. And as soon as I opened up to that, I saw how much, what a difference it made for me. So Gary's talking about multisensory experiences. I started seeing all the things in my life as it from a multisensory point of view, except when I was in fear. And then I couldn't really see. And so then I knew my work was to find the places in me that were fearful, so that I could change myself, so that I could see everything from a multisensory point of view. And that's been my practice for all these years. And then I met Gary a few years later. Actually, the universe connected us, I should say, because I wasn't looking for a partner. I certainly didn't think it would be the person who wrote the books that were so important to me. But the universe had other options. I had other options and other opportunities. And so I listened to these multisensory experiences that I had as I met Gary, and I began to even change myself more. But that's another story. We could talk about that for a long time, and maybe we will sometime. Maybe you'll come and be with us at one of our retreats, or or something that we can go even deeper with this. But beloved, I just wanted to share those multisensory experiences, and I thought it would be maybe helpful.
Thank you, beloved. So Linda is sharing 2 multisensory perceptions that she got from reading books. Happen to be books that I'm connected with. But you can have multisensory experiences of meaning and insight at any time. Now, by the way, your multisensory perception does not disappear when you're frightened, when a frightened part of your personality becomes active. But your ability to consult your intuition clearly is diminished or ceases. So one important thing, maybe the most important thing to know about multisensory perception, is that it brings with it a new potential. And that potential is a new understanding and experience of power. In the old consciousness, power was the ability to manipulate and control. In the new consciousness, power is the alignment of the personality with the soul. Well, first of all, without the new consciousness, that doesn't mean anything, because soul then becomes a theosophical or theological or philosophical or psychological discussion, and that's not the soul. The soul is your essence. Your soul is your essence. It's the core of who you are. It's not a hypothetical entity in your chest cavity. And everything you do in the Earth School, when you choose love, contributes to the evolution of your soul. And when you choose love consciously, which, by the way, is the way you have to do it, you can't choose love unconsciously. Well, you can have moments of grace. Then you contribute to the evolution of your soul. So a big thing about multisensory perception is the reality that you have a soul, and you can experiment with that. And the first experiment you can make, if you haven't experimented already, is to entertain the possibility that your soul is real. And if that's the case, then ask yourself, what does my soul want from me? What can I contribute to my soul? Now, the second really big thing about multisensory perception is the power I was talking about, alignment of the personality with the soul. The old understanding of power, manipulation and control is not something you can bring forward. You can, of course, you can choose anything that you desire. You've got free will. But if you pursue external power, you're going to find that it produces only violence and destruction. And if you look around you, you'll see the same thing. So we are shifting from a 5-sensory species that evolved by surviving and survived by pursuing external power into a multisensory species that evolves by growing spiritually and grows spiritually by aligning personality with soul. That is the new consciousness. And it's happened with amazing speed, as Diana mentioned. Our old consciousness evolved over 300,000 years. And this consciousness is happening within a few generations. Mm-hmm. That's faster than a heartbeat. That's faster than an eye blink in comparison. But it's happening. This transformation from 5-sensory perception and power as external to multisensory perception and power as alignment of the personality with the soul, authentic power. And there's even more. This is the shift that we are now experiencing. This is the headline news. This is the big moment, the shift from the old consciousness to the new consciousness, 5-sensory to multisensory, external power to authentic power. And it is big news. And that was the good news that we brought to the Inside Edge. Many people there, I think, already knew it, but we were excited about it and we wanted to share it anyway. Now we come again to the Inside Edge and we have more good news to share. Mm-hmm. So fast is our evolution now proceeding. Before I go into that, though, I want to mention how you create authentic power, because that's important. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. You create authentic power by becoming emotionally aware. That means aware in your body of all of your emotions in terms of physical sensations. So when you have an emotion like anger, or you need vengeance, or superiority, or inferiority, or competition, or jealousy, instead of acting on that impulse, put your attention in your body and start with your chest area, your throat area, your solar plexus area. There's 4 other areas, but start with these because these are the easiest to feel physical sensations in for me. And when you feel physical sensations, you might have to practice this a while, but they are there. And you will find that all of them are uncomfortable or painful. And by painful physical sensations, I mean just that, literally. They ache, they throb, they churn, they burn, they stab, they sting. A physical sensation from a frightened part of your personality hurts as much as getting a finger caught in a car door. Heartache is not poetical, it's real. And you'll find that out for yourself as you develop emotional awareness. In all of those painful physical sensations, you will experience when a certain kind of internal dynamic in you is activated by the world. And that dynamic, we'll put it in a basket and call it fear. And I've mentioned some of the experiences of fear. Well, there's another basket, and we'll call that other basket love. And there are parts of your personality, other internal dynamics that originate in love. You experience them as gratitude, appreciation, caring, patience, contentment, all of the universe. And when you experience these parts of your personality that originate in love, the physical sensations are wonderful. They really feel good. It's the kind of physical sensation you want to feel more of. And the thoughts are of just those things. They're of appreciation and gratitude and caring. The thoughts of a frightened part of your personality are always judgmental and comparative. So while you're experiencing these painful physical sensations, which is easy, all you have to do is have the impulse to shout and not shout and turn your attention inward. Then you'll discover exactly what we're discussing. While you're doing that, your physical sensations, pleasing or painful, will tell you when fear or love is activated in you. And then all you need to remember is if you act in fear, you will create painful consequences. You'll be pursuing external power. You'll be trying to manipulate and control. And if you act in love, you'll do the opposite. You'll create constructive, wonderful feeling consequences and experiences. Now, here's the deal. Do it. When you're feeling the painful physical sensations of fear in that moment, do the best you can to access a loving part of your personality, one that's grateful or appreciative or caring, and act from that instead of reacting from fear. Respond from love. That's where the spiritual rubber meets the road. That's it. That's the moment of creating authentic power. And as you do that again and again and again and again and again and again, that frightened part of your personality begins to lose its control over you. It still comes. You still feel those painful physical sensations. You still see those comparative and judgmental thoughts, but they don't control you as they once did. They don't penetrate you as they once did. And eventually they begin to roll off of you like water off the feathers of a duck. And you begin to find it easier and easier when you're in the experience of fear, of anger, of judgment, of jealousy, to turn yourself toward a healthy part of your personality, a loving part. Even if you can't get there in the moment, you can remember that you have them. In other words, you begin to turn yourself toward love. And what happens when you do that? You encounter more of the painful physical sensations of frightened parts of your personality, because when you invoke healing, the universe responds. When you set the intention to challenge your anger by not acting on it, not going to war with it, just recognizing it and not acting on it, or your jealousy, you will begin to find that more and more things in the world cause you to be angry or jealous. And you might think, oh my gosh, I'm going in the wrong direction. You're not. Now think about this. You move the universe. When you invoke health, when you challenge a frightened part of your personality or cultivate a loving part, the universe responds with support. Everything that you encounter in the Earth School supports your spiritual development. And as you do that, you create authentic power. Now, the reason I wanted to slow for a minute and explain these things about authentic power is this. As we're in the midst of this transformation from stage 1 of our evolution, 5 sensory perception, into stage 2, multisensory perception, so fast is our evolution now moving that already another stage begins to beckon to us. We're not entering it. It's not here. We can't even comprehend what its consciousness will bring us. Just as it's impossible, literally impossible, to describe multisensory experiences and consciousness to 5 sensory humans because they don't have that, call it bandwidth. We're expanding our bandwidth. But we who are 5 sensory, who are multisensory, know it. We're not superior to those who are still 5 sensory. Nothing in the universe is superior or inferior to anything else. All is precious. But we do have the ability to begin to use our expanded multisensory perception to accelerate our spiritual development. And that is opening the door to the 3rd stage, stage 3. And we will not be able to imagine, much less comprehend or experience, the consciousness of stage 3 while we are in stage 2, any more than humans in stage 1 can experience the consciousness of humans in stage 2. Stage 3. By the way, before I get to stage 3,
Yes, beloved.
Is there anything you wanted to add to anything I've shared, beloved?
No, I really love what you said about, so stage 1 was 5 sensory. And that's when we saw everything only with the 5 senses. And now we're on stage 2. Everyone's becoming multisensory. I feel so excited to share that with everyone. I have a feeling most of you have these experiences, and that we're just inviting you to continue really using that perception to support you in your growth. And then you're talking about, I know I'd really want to hear more about the 3rd stage.
Yes, by the way, multisensory perception does not make you any more patient or grateful. It makes you more aware. It requires your work to create the new potential of power, authentic power. And that's the work that I've just described. And you have to do it because no one can do it for you. And you cannot do it for anyone else. Creating authentic power is heroic, intimate, life-changing, world-changing. And that's your role in the new consciousness, to align your personality with your soul. And you'll know when it's time to do that, because you'll become angry or jealous or competitive, or you'll feel superior and entitled, or you'll feel inferior and need to please. These are all experiences of parts of your personality that have been activated, internal dynamics in you that have been activated by the world. It is not only possible, but it happens a lot, in some cases almost continually, that a multisensory individual becomes angry or jealous or resentful or in a power struggle. Those are the moments for you to remember that the universe is providing you with an opportunity to address and change, to become aware of and change a part of your personality that is preventing you from giving the gifts that you were born to give. That's the work. Multisensory perception is the gift. Creating authentic power is the potential. Bringing the potential into your life is the work. And we are suggesting that that is the work you were born to do.
Yes.
And that work allows you to give the gifts that you were born to give, because you can't give those gifts while you're angry or jealous or sexually addicted or addicted to anything or resentful. You create love as you create authentic power. And then you go where only love can take you. And then you approach stage 3.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to, I thought when I met Gary, like I said, the universe actually connected. I knew I was being connected with Gary. I didn't understand why, because I'd read these amazing books and they were really important to me. And it really opened me to my multisensory abilities. Well, when I met Gary, I started having multisensory intuitions about him that no one told me anything about him. I just saw him at this retreat, and I just knew that I was being connected. I didn't know why. And I knew things about him that no one told me. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. But then what happened is I became really curious about why I was feeling so inferior, because I could tell that I didn't even want to come and talk to him, because I felt he had written these really great books that were so important to me. And so I didn't want to talk to him. But then I knew that because I'd read The Seed of Us All, I knew that if I felt inferior, that it meant that I had some work to do in me. And so I began that work of changing myself so that I didn't feel inferior to Gary, and actually not inferior to anyone. But it took me a while because it was such a strong part of my personality. I thought it was real. I thought I really was inferior to Gary. But instead, I realized it was a part of my personality that felt that way. And I didn't have to believe that. I didn't have to go with that. And so that was one of the very first parts of my personality that I looked at deeply to change it so that it wouldn't control me anymore. And that made such a difference in our relationship, Olivia, because we would have not continued in what happened in our relationship. We became spiritual partners, a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. So if I'm feeling inferior to you and thinking you're superior, we can't really be in a spiritual partnership in that situation, because I'm feeling fear.
That's right.
And so I changed that in me, and it was one example of how I saw things in me that would keep me from giving my gifts, from doing the things that I needed to do, from connecting with the people I needed to connect with. And so I really used that to change myself. So thank you. Thank you for writing The Seed of the Soul.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I want, before we go any farther, and I tell you about stage 3, I want to share with you our usual request. We didn't start that way this morning because we started with a meditation. We don't ask or expect you to believe anything that we say simply because we say it. If we say anything that you resonate with, experiment with it. See what it produces in your life. And then if you like it, experiment some more. Everything that we've shared with you, you can verify, you can experiment with. You can become a scientist of the soul. You can become an artist in your life. You can create mastery. And this is how you do it. And don't take our word for it. Try it. experiment with it, authentic power and creating it. All the things we've mentioned here so briefly are in the seat of the soul, and they're in universal human. So experiment with creating authentic power and really do it. Twist it, bend it, hammer on it, jump up and down on it. See if you can break it. You can't. But don't take my word for that. Use your experience. Now, all of that bears directly on stage 3, because stage 3 is universal humanity, the emergence of the universal human. What is a universal human? First, a universal human is authentically powerful. And we've been talking about how to become authentically powerful. In other words, creating authentic power is not a shortcut to the universal human. It's a prerequisite. It's a requirement. In fact, it's now the requirement of our species for its evolution. It's the requirement you have for your evolution individually. And you don't get rewarded for creating it. You don't go to heaven and you don't go to hell if you don't. You just don't change. But if you don't change, you'll continue to pursue external power, create destructive and painful consequences. And why do that when it's not necessary any longer? You can use your multisensory perception. A universal human is authentically powerful. There are none now, but in the course of our evolution, authentically powerful humans will emerge. Universal humans will emerge. A universal human is beyond culture, beyond religion, beyond nation, beyond ethnic group, beyond gender. A universal human is a human whose allegiance is to life first and all else second. I'm spelling life with a capital L, not your life, not Linda's life, not my life, life. And what is that? Humanoid? Yes. How about a lobster? Yes. How about an earthworm? Yes. Well, everybody knows that. What about a star? Yes. What about a galaxy? Yes. What about the universe? Yes. A universal human is a human whose allegiance is to life first and everything else second. If I were a universal human, for example, I would say, I'm an American second. Let me put it this way. I'm a universal human first and an American second. I'm a universal human first and a male second. I'm a universal human first and white second. I'm a universal human first and a grandfather second. I'm a universal human first and everything that I can possibly think of that I could be or have or imagine second. Life is my love. Life is my address. Life is my name. I am a universal human. That's the third stage. But we can't experience it yet. We are moving in that direction, but we can feel the call, feel this, the universal human, universal humanity beckoning to us, like a premonition of light before the dawn. I spent a lot of time in the backcountry for a good part of my life. I've been on a vision quest, things that have had me awake at night just before dawn. And just before dawn means before the first trace of light. The sky is still completely dark. There's nothing there but stars. But you can feel something coming. It's imminent and it's big. It's really big. The dawn is coming. We have that kind of relationship now with the third stage of human evolution. We can feel it's something there. Something big is going to happen. And it's calling us to it in some way. That's the universal human. Well, that's also the name of the latest book, Universal Human. So I recommend that to you too, because part of it will look at creating authentic power and multisensory perception, but from different perspectives. It's the same diamond, it's the same jewel, but it's got a lot of facets. They're endless, like your life. And it's an invitation to use your life consciously, because your life is unique and beautiful as a snowflake and is transient, but it's here now. You're in it. Mm-hmm. Everything is changing. Our social structures are changing. Phase 2 of our evolution is arriving in force. You can feel it. You can see it everywhere. Old females are being replaced by new females who are not restricted in any way by social expectations. And the old male is being replaced by the new male. Same. So this is what we've come to share. Universal human. That's where we're going. Universal human is the final step in the evolution of human. Beyond universal human lie infinite domains of freedom and awareness and love. Every time I've said the word life, I have meant by that the same thing as when I use the word consciousness with a capital C, or when I use the word universe with a capital U, or when I use the word love with a capital L. They are identical. And you are that. That is where we are going. What are you going to do with that? Well, be in your life fully. None of this takes you into an otherworldly, other dimensional place. It takes you into now, right now. Right now, when you feel angry, when you feel sleepy, when you feel jealous, when you have a craving, when you're joyful, when you love the sunset, when you love the person you're with, even if you've just looked into his eyes and he's driving the bus you just stepped onto, whatever is happening now, that's where creating authentic power takes you. I'm so happy to be here with you and with you, beloved.
Yes, I thank you so much. I feel the same. What I'd like to do is have you do a little meditation for a moment, so you can go into a breakout room and talk about these things that we've been talking about. Love for you to share with each other. So could you just close your eyes for a moment and just open yourself to your own intuition? If you can close your eyes, of course.
Yeah, if you're driving or in a public place, do what you can.
Yeah. So just take a moment and just take a deep breath. And open yourself to your intuition about what things are most significant that you could bring with you from what we've said today. that would be most supportive for you right now in your life. You could even use the question, what does my soul want from me right now? Just open yourself.
You talked about feeling the sensation, but then when you notice that you're in fear, or one of its aspects, you find the sensation within your body. And this has been a practice of mine for quite a while. The Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron, talks about a 90-second technique that if you find that sensation and amplify it for yourself as much as you can for 90 seconds, that it begins to dissipate. I would love it if you would address that.
Well, there are countless ways to challenge a frightened part of your personality.
Yes.
And whatever works for you, do it again. The challenge is not to do combat with it, but to recognize in yourself a part of yourself that is created destructively throughout your life and decide that you will not let that part of you control you again. Not now, not today, not this moment. So if you want to amplify it, if you want to chant, if you want to sing, if you want to dance, but not to distract yourself. The point is, you are feeling fear, the pain of it, and the decision not to act on it consciously is the challenge. So for me, I'm going to try that experiment, but I know for me, I would have frightened parts of my personality that last for days, weeks, years. So I'm going to, anger was a part of my life for a large part of, it was a large part of my life for a large part of my life. And jealousy, competition, resentment, judgment, I've got a good selection. Everybody does. And what I suggest that however you challenge it, however you make the shift in yourself, not to act on that in the moment, that is a constructive thing to do.
Yes.
And if you go one step further, not just observe and let it go away, or observe and let it get bigger, observe and observe. Creating authentic power is intentional. In that process, you use your volition to shift your attention to a healthy part of your personality. That is what changes you. That is what changes the world. It's not like riding in a self-driving car and you just enjoy the ride. In this particular kind of meditation, you put a loving part of your personality in the driver's seat, a part of your personality that will take the car where you want it to go. And that's creating authentic power. That makes you the authority in your life. You take responsibility for it. You always are responsible for what you create. But now you step into that role consciously and hopefully wisely.
Yeah, I think what Kim is pointing to is something really important to really notice, that you do have physical sensations in different parts of your body. And if you're not afraid to feel them, then they can't control you. So I really love that she says to do a 90-second. I've done many different things to challenge those frightened parts when I feel them. But I think that's a beautiful one as well. So if that works, I recommend it.
Maybe it's just allowing it to be instead of resisting it that makes the shift easier.
Exactly. Because if you are afraid to feel it, and that's what a lot of times people's behaviors come from, being afraid to feel something. So in other words, I used to please people all the time because I was afraid to feel what was underneath the very intense need I had to please other people.
Mhm.
When I stopped pleasing and I just noticed, oh, this is coming from fear, that in this part of me feels like I have to do this.
Well, Linda's talking about pleasing,
Yeah.
but everything she's saying applies to every frightened part
Mhm.
of every personality.
Yes, I was just taking that
At
one
the core-
area.
Yeah, at
Mhm.
the core of what we're talking about is a human experience that everyone shares.
Yeah.
The pain of powerlessness. It's the pain of feeling inadequate. It's the pain of wanting to belong and feeling like you don't. It's the pain of not wanting anyone to see you the way you are inside because they wouldn't want anything to do with you. It's the pain of being inherently defective or flawed. And every frightened part of every personality exists and moves and acts to mask that excruciating pain.
Mhm.
And what Pema's suggestion and our suggestion is that instead you put your attention exactly on those very things that five sensory humans are doing everything they can to avoid experiencing,
Mhm.
and then challenge them. You bring your attention inside where you can make a real change.
Mhm. Thank you so much. We only have about maybe 4 or 5 minutes for questions. I think Robin had one, and then I've selected some from the chat that we
Wonderful.
can ask if there's enough time. Robin, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Diana. Actually, I've also got some from the chat, so I think I'll just take this section here.
Okay.
I did look at everything in the chat and I saw that there were some themes. And so in the interest of time, I'm going to try to pick some of the questions that seemed of most interest. So first of all, lots of people had, several people had questions about this multisensory awareness. Dana White from Santa Monica says, had a question about the difference, or if there's a difference between multisensory awareness and being one with the Tao.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how you look at the Tao.
Right.
So,
Since I haven't really studied the Tao in that way, it might be similar, but I don't know that for sure. I'd have to know more too.
yeah, I know the Tao is I believe it's a Confucian experience and understanding. And I know that it's always been helpful to me to learn more about the Tao. But before I could answer that, I'd have to learn a lot more about the Tao. Multisensory perception means you're not limited to the five senses.
Okay, thank you. John Distrakish from Orange, California says that he's been working with this for a long time, and he understands the alignment of soul and personality. But his question is that, does this shift occur quite naturally as we mature as human beings, conditioned on my conditional and increasing awareness? Is there something that is more easily acceptable to us as accessible to us as elders than as younger people?
Some people die angry.
Mm-hmm.
In the Lakota tradition, when someone asks them, what about elders who are alcoholic? What about elders who are ancestral? What about elders, not ancestral, but guilty of incest and other many things like that? They say those are sleeping elders.
Mm-hmm.
So just growing older does not mean that you're going to become more loving, but you certainly can be.
Yeah,
I have another
I'm not
question.
sure. Yeah, go ahead. I'm not sure that I quite understood the question.
Okay.
So maybe.
Is there any way I could ask it in person?
Sure. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm wondering about the maturing human. That's partly can come with age and increasing awareness, and including our experiences from prior in our life. So I wonder if what we're talking about isn't easier for the elder, for the aware elder, than it is at younger ages. That was my question.
I would say that used to be the case, although there are millions of neonates now that are born with multisensory perception, millions of Gen X, millions of millennials. And so I think, John, those of us that have lived many winters maybe can appreciate the sweetness of becoming more loving and more connected. But multisensory perception itself is not related to age or ethnicity or culture or environment. It is a gift from the universe, multisensory perception.
However, that gift is a gift, but we still need to create with love rather than fear. Even though we are multisensory, that doesn't stop that's why we're here on the earth, to experience loving and fearful parts and to choose loving parts over fearful parts, no matter what age we're at. And someone who is multisensory, even if they're very young, they still have that process to go through because they're in the earth school. And John, if you've been conscious and you've been practicing creating with love instead of fear all this time, and you're multisensory, that's such a bonus, right? It's such a great thing. So it's not necessarily easier though, unless someone has been consciously doing their best to choose love rather than fear, and continues to do that, because it's a process. For me, it's a lifelong process. I haven't seen, it's like, I don't know when a fearful part is going to come up in me, but I do my best to notice it and challenge it.
Good morning, Linda and Gary. I love your book, and the 3 or 4 chapters on the coronavirus were brilliant. They were so insightful. It's unlike anything I've read. And you had said it presents a new evolutionary path to design or support the evolution of awakening love. And I loved your statement, there is no vaccine for fear. So the coronavirus is about love and fear. And I wonder, it's evolved us spiritually. So I wonder if you could perhaps deepen that for those who are not aware of these chapters yet.
Yes. Everything that happens in the Earth School happens for our spiritual development and your spiritual development. Another way of saying that is that everything that happens in the Earth School is designed to bring the consciousness of your soul into the awareness of your personality.
Mhm.
Many of those experiences are experiences that the personality would not want and does not want.
Right.
Cancer, the death of a child, divorce, the collapse of a business. Yet all of those are products of compassion. The Earth School is a domain of compassion. That means that everything that we encounter in it serves our spiritual growth. 5 sensory humans couldn't appreciate that because of their limitations of perception, but we can now. I hope that answers your question, Sherry.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you so much, everyone. It's really time for us to move on. And I want to ask Gary and Linda how we can experience you more. You must have some events coming up. Can you share more about your work that's happening here in the future that we can participate in?
Well, I think Gary and I have realized that we wanted to expand what we do. And so instead of doing the physical events, right now we're doing live online events. And we'll be doing 4 of those next year, just a journey to the soul journey.
Serious.
A series that'll be every 4 months, because we wanted people to really get an opportunity to practice between and to go deeper and deeper. So we have many things that we've created so that we can have that happen. And we're just so excited to be able to do live online events. We've been doing that obviously since the pandemic. So yeah, there are many things that we're doing.
We're creating an ecosystem because we're aware of our mortality. That's always have been, but now it's much more real. The mountain is closer. So we want to use our time in the Earth School to support as well as we can. So we're creating online self-paced courses. They should be available
Those also.
next year.
Mhm.
We're creating a new social media outreach to be more supportive rather than just informational or inspirational, but supportive.
And a soul-to-soul community. However, if you're interested in those things, because they're just on the verge of happening, just go to our website, seedofasoul.com, and put your name down on our mailing list, and we'll let you know as soon as those things
Mhm.
begin to emerge.
Also next year, I'm
Mhm.
starting a podcast next year called Universal Human. And I'm really looking forward to that. We want to discuss different aspects of the universal human in conversation with emerging universal humans. And you can decide
Wonderful.
if you are or not.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to Diana for being such a gracious, lovely host, and for not just today, but this entire year's series of monthly speaker forums. You've been so amazing. Thank you to Gary and Linda for being just a wonderful crescendo to this this year of our speakers. And we certainly are very grateful for your presence and all that you've shared. Thank you for each of you for showing up, the perfect people that were here as always. And thank you for co-creating this energy with us today.